We are live.
It says we're live. I'm waiting for this screen to update. Here we go. All right. Okay. You ready to start this thing up, man?
I should be able to. Yeah, I'm good to go.
Okay. Get my reading materials out here. Okay. Here we go. Welcome to Cardboard Conjecture. We're a podcast about board games where we have opinions and conclusions formed on the basis of incomplete information. This episode brought to you by the great people at GameSurplus.com, where you can find the current hits, the classics, and the hard-to-find titles. Let Carmen and Elaine find your games and receive free shipping for all contiguous U.S. shipping orders over $120. Remember, GameSurplus.com. Great people, great selection, and great prices. And in Canada, Amazing Stories in Saskatoon. If you're in the Saskatoon area, come by the store for Friday night board games, play and receive 20% off your purchase of any board games in the store. Amazing Stories is the winner of the Joe Shuster Award for Best Comic Retailer in Canada and nominated in 2016 for the U.S. Eisner Spirit of Comics Retailer Award presented at Comic-Con. So if you want to get your comics, cards, and geek culture items, go online at AmazingStoriesComics.com. Hey there, this is episode 3 of Cardboard Conjecture. I'm your host, Norm.
I'm Ryan.
And on today's episode, we're going to discuss London 2nd edition and
Shadows over Camelot.
Yay! And I'm going to let this kind of space out here. Not I'm spacing out, but I need some editing space. All right. Welcome back to Cardboard Conjecture. This is episode 3, Ryan. Season 2.
We're rolling. We keep it rolling.
I think we got a groove going on.
Rolling.
Rolling
Down that river.
I just before we start, I can't say how happy I am to have our friendly local game store support us in this crazy idea that we're working on.
Oh, absolutely. Jeff, Tony, Jody there at Amazing Stories. Just the nicest people that you'll ever meet and deal with on a personal and professional level. They're just amazing.
They've been in the community since I've gone to university, and if I took my hat off to show you the hairline right now, you would know that's a long time.
Oh yeah, I've been following them for quite a while as well. They're their small little comic shop there. What was it? Was it across the street from the university?
It was across the street from the university in the basement. And I think they also sold like used textbooks and stuff like that.
Right. And then now they've grown into this like the new store.
It's huge.
That's not so new anymore. It's like it's massive, and just the way it's evolved too since they've been at that location, it's been great.
Oh, it's like Geekapalooza. I love it. Okay, well, let's get this stuff going. I'm going to pitch it to you because you taught this game to me last week, and I am so excited to hear your knowledgeable perspective on it. So, Ryan, take it away.
I'm kicking off this part with I'm going back in time to what I consider a classic, which usually doesn't happen. Usually I'm very cult of the new Kickstarter type of guy, but I'm going all the way back to 2005 with a little Days of Wonder production known as Shadows over Camelot, designed by Bruno Cathala, Mr. Bruno, and Serge Laget. I had actually looked up what Serge Laget did. He did Cargo Noir.
Oh yeah,
one of his productions, and the Mare Nostrum.
Oh yeah, for Academy Games.
Mare Nostrum Empires. So pretty good design pedigree behind this one.
Well, that Mare Nostrum, I'm that's on my hit list for sure.
Right. The artists for this one were Cyril Daugen and Julien Delval. Hopefully I'm saying those right. And yeah, and I did mention that this was a Days of Wonder production, so it's a very gorgeous looking game. So I'm going to get right into it. I'm going to go pull up the rule book here, and I'm going to kind of give you the little overview of what's happening in Shadows over Camelot. It says, an unladen swallow flies across the gray skies of Cornwall. The forces of evil are gathering around Camelot. The Black Knight was sighted atop a desolate ridge. A scheming Morgan plots her revenge. Saxon troops are on the move, and acres of timber are being felled for the siege engines. And yet, Lancelot has all but vanished. Excalibur is still to be recovered, and the Holy Grail remains just a legend. These are troubling times indeed. Will you, young squire, come forth and pledge allegiance to your fellow knights at the Round Table? Is your heart pure of intent and ready to sacrifice for the good of all? Or will the dark promise of power seduce you into treason? Oh, that's a really good little intro to on this rule book.
It was dripping with drama.
So the mechanism. So what's Shadows over Camelot here? It's at its heart, it's a classic cooperative type of game. So thinking like your Pandemics, your Forbidden Islands, your Forbidden Deserts, your classic cooperative type of nature. Except for this was one of the first ones I think that introduced that you could have a traitor amongst the group, which is a really interesting mechanism that you can throw into a cooperative type, knowing that there could be somebody at your table that could be trying to thwart everybody's plans and make the game win, and essentially they win the game. So this is a cooperative game where you and your knights around the round table are just trying to complete quests, and every time you complete a quest, you get these white swords that go around the round table. But every time that you lose a quest, black swords come out, and by the end of the game, it's whoever has the majority of swords around the round table is eventually going to determine who the winner is. Is it the dark forces or is it the forces of good? So you just need to have the majority of swords around the round table. And I said, how you do this is you actually have to go out and you have to complete quests. So as a group, this is a very card driven cooperative type of game. So you're going to have like a hand of cards, and they do a whole bunch of things, but a majority of these cards have some sort of value on them, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. And it's called a fight card. And you play these fight cards in certain quests, or there's going to be other ones like Grail cards and other really good cards, like a Merlin card can help out the party and stuff like that. So it's a very card-driven game. So that's really in a nutshell. It's very simple. So I'm going to go through my opinions about this game, and then you can jump in at any time, Norm, when you have your opinions.
Oh, for sure. I was just going to wait till the discussion afterwards because you were doing a really good job on laying it out.
So like we like to do on this show is we go from the outside, go inside. So we start with the box and everything. So again, the artists here did a very fantastic job. It's a Days of Wonder production. The art makes it look like it's a kind of like a family fun type of game, like Days of Wonder is really known to do. The graphic design, great. The components are amazing.
Agreed.
Because they even went the little extra mile that every knight around the round table can have their own little miniature. So they could have had just little cardboard standees and everything, but they actually nice little resin or plastic little miniatures that represents each of the knight, and they're all different.
And for the year it came out, that wasn't, having minis wasn't really popular gaming culture like Simon had created.
No, and then there's like little miniature catapults, and there's little miniature
that's right,
like the Saxons have their own little miniature to them, and
well, even Excalibur and
Lancelot's armor and the little Excalibur type and like little Holy Grail, fantastic little components there. Just
now the rule book, like the readability, the layout, learning.
So this is one of the games it actually has 2 rule books kind of to it. Okay. It's got its main rule book that kind of outlines like how like a turn will go and kind of like your basics. Or it's very easy to read, very easy to follow. You can get a good idea of what's happened. But then there's a second book that's called the Quest book, which actually outlines in detail how do you win at a particular quest
Okay.
in the game. So it's kind of like before Fantasy Flight did their two rule book things. They kind of have that kind of thing going on where you have like your learn to play, and then you got kind of like your reference on like the specifics on like what you have to do in a particular quest. So it's kind of it. Really, there's not a lot to it. They could have had these both combined, but that's just my little thing. But if you're just looking at a particular quest, you can just open up that quest book and just and go. Now the game system here, the game system is really really neat because it's a cooperative game at its heart. And so what you're going to be doing is everybody's being dealt a hand of cards, and I'll kind of take us through like a flow of return, because the flow of return really is what's kind of unique here, because at the beginning of everybody's turn, something bad's got to happen to the board state. You have to choose a bad thing to happen to you. So a bad thing could either be add a siege engine around Camelot, and one of the end game triggers is if there's 12 siege engines around Camelot, the game is over, evil wins. So you can either add one of those to Camelot, you could reduce your health by 1. Everybody starts with health of 4. You can go up to a max of 6. You just represented by a little dice. But you could take a hit point and just like have nothing bad happen other than something bad happen to you.
And at first I thought that wasn't a big deal until you don't get many.
You and it's very hard to get health back in this game once you've taken hit points. And then the final bad thing that you could choose to happen on your turn is that you could actually have draw an evil card. And the evil card could do any number of things. What it does, it just progresses the game in one of the quests. It could be something like adds a despair card to the Holy Grail track. So now it's harder to complete the Holy Grail quest. Or it moves Excalibur to like the one step closer to evil. And if it gets all the way over to the evil side, then you lose Excalibur. Or lots of the cards maybe adding more Saxons and invaders to the fights. Or you can add combat cards to either like the Black Knight or the Black Knight Joust or the Sir Lancelot quest. And those ones are actually very interesting because it reads right on the text of those cards that you could either play this card face up and let everybody know what the value is, or you can play that card face down. And if you do it face down, then you get to draw a new good card back into your hand.
When we have discussion, I'm going to talk about this because from the unique perspective that I had for my first play. But yes, that was
no. It is unique because there could be a traitor amongst you. And at higher player counts, there's almost guaranteed that there's going to be a traitor amongst you. And playing a card face down, well, it just reeks of traitor. But everybody does it because you want a new good card. You just do. So I got a funny story about that one too when we get to our discussion. But
I'm holding off so much right now because I just want to jump into discussion about this because it's just so funny.
So after something bad, you choose something bad to happen, then you get to do your action. And really you're limited to, well, there's actually a nice big list of actions you can do, but really what it boils down to is, do you want to move to a new location? That's an action. Do you want to perform the heroic action at that particular location? So if you're around the round table, you get to draw new cards. If you are at one of the various locations, you get to play one of your cards that's in your hand to whatever that location's actually doing. Then, or you can do, what's another one? If you have a card that's like a special action, you can play that special action, which is usually like gain 2 life back, or everybody gets 1 life back, or cancel the effect of like the bad thing that's happening, or maybe it's a Merlin card, which helps get rid of siege engines or cancel the effect of bad things.
To connect this back to components, the player board was, for my first play, I was able to read and understand a lot of my game turn just based on that player board. So, whatever year this came out, I think they had that whole player assist concept figured out fairly well.
Oh no, they're absolutely fantastic. They actually lay it out quite well. One thing that you can do on your turn too is that you can sacrifice one of your life points to take a second action. But it can't be the same action that was that you previously just performed.
No repeats.
No repeats. And then once you've done that, done something bad, the protect against the bad side, you've taken your action. Okay, now it's done. Now it passes on to the next player. So play is actually relatively quick in this game. Even at higher player counts, you're still bouncing from player to player to player, actually really quickly, which is a good plus about this game. You don't want to be sitting there and analyzing your board, say what you have to do on your turn, lots and everything. Lots of times it's really cut and dry, like what you should do. Do you need to move to a new location? I might need to just move to a new location because I have no cards that'll help me where I currently am. So that's a kind of that's kind of like the game system overall. And again, you're doing this because certain quests, like the Holy Grail quest, you have to have a Holy Grail card in your hand to play it along this track. And as soon as this track gets all filled up, you're going to win it. Or if it all gets filled up with the bad cards, you lose it. And some of the quests have sword values on it. Like the Holy Grail quest, if you win it, you get 3 white swords. That's big in this game. If you get the 3 white swords, plus you get to draw new cards, plus you get life.
Each of those quests had different significant positive consequences and negative consequences.
Right. The Holy Grail one is the big one. It's the 3 swords.
Yeah.
They're the 3 swords for good, 3 swords for bad. The next one is like the Excalibur quest, which is just simply just discarding a card and progressing the sword along its good and bad tracks. That one's good, worth 2 swords good or 2 swords bad.
Yeah, and that one's on like a pendulum swing because it starts right in the middle, and then you can either push it to the positive or, as a trader, try to, do it so that you're not going to get accused.
Oh, and that's such a delicate balance.
And
then any of the other quests are just simply just combat, where you're playing your fight cards, and whichever side has a higher value evaluates, and that side's either going to win. That side's going to win the fight.
Yeah. Give me some knowledge on the unique mechanism that you think about this game.
Unique.
Yeah.
I can't remember at this time. I can't remember how old cooperative games were at this stage. But I think this is one. I think this is one of the ones that was one of the first that introduces the hidden traitor.
Yeah,
which is always unique in the situation of cooperative, because one of my favorite games that I love to play is Dead of Winter, and Dead of Winter is that cooperative style with the traitor mechanism and everything. So just to the meta game that can happen around a table, because there's possibly somebody there that can just absolutely just destroy everybody's plans, and just the accusations that go around.
Oh man, you guys! I can't wait till we just have the discussion, because
I know
I'm giggling. Have you ever played Battlestar Galactica?
I have not played Battlestar Galactica, but that has been on my high.
That's another hidden traitor one that a lot of people kind of get into the table flip mode.
Yeah, the only reason that I have not played is I just don't own it, and I don't know anybody in my group that actually does own it. So if you're in the Saskatoon area and you own Battlestar Galactica and want to teach me, I will leap at that opportunity.
Cool.
So I'm just kind of going around here. Does it all connect? Yeah, this is one of those you don't hear of a lot of Arthurian legend themed games. There's not an abundance of them, and this one does it actually pretty well, because all the characters are actual like the lords and the lords of Camelot of that time. Minus Lancelot, because Lancelot's missing.
Yeah.
In this game, but no, and it's like one of my students just thought it was absolutely great. He's like, well, I drew King Arthur. could King Arthur be the traitor in this game? Yeah, he could be, which is
Yeah.
absolutely bizarre to think about, but it's just hilarious that that could be a situation that comes up. But
Are you
yeah,
ready for some conclusions?
yeah, I'm ready to kind of conclude this one. It's a really cool game. It was one that I brought out to a couple's game night, knowing that I was going to be playing with some people that weren't really um, quote unquote gamers. Like
New to the
uh,
hobby people.
they're kind of newer to the hobby. A couple that one of the couples was ones that we do play with quite regularly. So I brought this one along, just kind of like, you know what, it's a cooperative game. It plays at a little bit of a higher player count too. I think the maximum goes up to is 7, which is
Holy moly!
yeah, it goes up to 7, and then we had 6 people, so I thought that was really that's a good plus for it, and that's just because you could have the 6 knights around the round table and then 1 traitor.
Now, did the game drag on having that many people
No,
compared to a 4-person?
no, we were still done within just over an hour type deal. So it doesn't drag, and if you're fully immersed in the game,
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like it's taking up a long time.
Well, and we were 5-player at the school, weren't we?
Yeah, and we did that one.
In
That
an
one
hour.
again, just over an hour. We went, and that one we went like right to the bare bones. Like we filled up the round table
to the point where you had to read the rule book to see what happened when the traitor was not revealed.
right? Because I was reflecting back, we had never actually ever gotten to that point where the traitor was not revealed. And so, for those listening, we found out that the rule was that if the traitor was not revealed, 2 white swords that are on the around the white table get flipped to black. And so then the traitor, like, it is bizarre. So, and if I knew that rule, should
we let the cat
I would have ousted Norm as the traitor, because Norm was the traitor.
I stood up from the table with arms pumped in the air, thinking in my head, "We are the champions."
And Norm played this game perfectly because it was his first time, and he kept playing the card that he had no idea what he was doing, which is complete rubbish.
Did I play the dupe pretty well?
No, because it's not a hard game to understand.
Because just to set the context, it was you and I at the game club at school,
at high school games club,
and 3 of the students were playing, and I immediately, when I got the traitor card, I was trying not to laugh, because I thought, man, first time I'm playing, what are the odds I get the card that requires the deepest level of acting and social delicateness? Because man, one of you guys put the card like the wrong way on the table, and he's the traitor. You jumped, like, you guys were dogpiling everybody at the flinchiest moment and having fun with it. And I'm thinking, I have to be very careful, because they're going to turn into pitbulls.
And for me, I'm just trying to get information about how people react to being accused, like, right away. Now there's other people that are out there that would say being ousted as the traitor very early on in the game is advantageous for the traitor.
On Twitter, Andy Dennison from Good Board and the Ugly, he said that's
definitely a good point, but that would not be a very fun game. Well, in my opinion, it would not be fun, because when you get ousted as the traitor, and you're kind of looking at this, playing dumb, looking at the traitor side of your card, see what happens.
Oh, what's on the other side of this thing?
Oh, traitor! Does that mean I'm the traitor?
Does this count for anything?
Because essentially, when you're the traitor, you're null from all other discussions. You don't have any cards in your hand anymore, and so when the game state comes or back around to your turn, you're down to only a couple options: progressing evil, which is either adding a siege engine, drawing a black card, or ripping a card out of a player's hand. Those are your only 3 options. And really the only main good option would probably be to add siege engines to Camelot, because at that point there's probably lots of siege engines
So you can
in
push that timer really hard.
yeah. So as the rest of the players, we can kind of already predict. Oh man, there's only 5 spots for siege. We got like essentially 5 turns left until we
Yeah,
get.
there were so many times in that game where I would try to just nonchalantly play a card, and man, it would hit the table, and you guys would, well, do you know what you're doing? Do you know that if you did this, that it's not helping the group? And right away, I'm like, oh, it's okay. I didn't know what. I mean, I right away went to
The
the.
amount of times you backed up and you're like,
Oh
okay,
yeah,
wait.
oh man,
Oh,
I hit
is that how this is played? Oh,
I
I didn't
backed right
understand
into the
that.
wall so hard, so fast. I was backpedaling on so many moves. Oh yeah, I would reach for something, and then you would be like, "Well, what are you doing that for?" Well, what was there something I should pay attention to? Oh yeah, I was just trying to lay it on, just
And
thick
I
enough. Yeah,
and I should have ousted you because I had a really strong suspicion that you were the traitor based on the Holy Grail track because
oh,
I knew you had Holy Grail cards, and then you just all of a sudden you just abandoned the quest and you went somewhere else, and I was like, dude, why are you not
didn't you
helping us?
just say you had a
And like,
handful? And I'm like, oh no, I only had one.
yeah, and we're like, oh, traitor.
Oh,
But at that time, it was so late in the game. Like, oh, if I oust him as the traitor, we're essentially we are going to lose the game. But then I did not know the rule of
and the moment you guys would start discussing trader, I buried my eyes into my player card and started reading and moving my finger along the line so that you guys could visually see that I was trying to educate myself and be a good team player and not go, if I look at any of them in the eyes, I am going to get busted because I'm just going to be grinning like a Cheshire cat.
so this is what I'm trying to get is that this is actually a really cool game, especially if you do have a little bit higher player count, that 5 to 6 player. It's a great cooperative. Like the decisions you have to make on your turn are relatively simple, but you do need to work together. Like you can't tell people what you have in your hand. Like that's a good rule that you should abide by, that you have that hidden information of I just have this hand of cards, and
Yeah.
and maybe a player, oh yeah, I didn't even mention that every knight has a special player power that
Yeah.
they could utilize. Like King Arthur can trade cards with another player, or another knight can move from one location to location all the time as a free action type deal. So being able to expose that and just trying to educate everybody else around the table. Does this game have a quarterbacking issue? It could if you have that type of group.
But you had
But
said that this was the first of its type too.
yeah, because now you have that traitor,
Yeah.
and so until you are absolutely certain that Norm is the traitor, anything that anybody says, you have to take with a grain of salt. You're like, are they the traitor? Are they actually telling the truth? Are they could just be bull crapping me the entire way and playing me.
I
Right,
remember looking
playing
at
the table.
I remember looking at Antoine and he's like, "You're the traitor," and I looked at him and went, "I am." And he just
That
looked
actually
at me,
happened.
oh yeah, I looked at him and went, "Yeah, I am." And he just kind of could not understand that I would say something like that. And then of course,
Oh,
like, no, I just learned in the game.
uh, that's actually pretty awesome. So, like I said, it is a cooperative game. It's going to draw a lot of comparisons to like that of like Pandemic and like the Forbidden, like Sky and
That
Forbidden Sky is
series, yeah.
the new one, but Forbidden Island, Forbidden Desert. What this one has actually going for is that it can utilize higher player counts, which is really and doesn't complicate the system at all.
Now, is this one of these level markers of games where if someone says, "Oh, it's a hidden trader game," do you compare it to this one? Like when I talk about area control, I'm always comparing everything to El Grande.
Right, like this was definitely an influence for like the Dead of Winter, the Dead of Winter games.
So this is
Where
the one who set the foundation for.
yeah, now I can't. I would have to do some research. I can't remember what came out first, this or Battlestar Galactica, but um, that whole hidden trader game, like you can put these ones all in that kind of like grouping, and then you just kind of just pick your theme
Yeah.
that you want to that you want to go for? Do you want Arthurian Legend? Do you want like Space Battlestar Galactica, or do you want Zombie Apocalypse? Really,
Yeah.
but this one does it so elegantly. Like there's no convoluted rules like in Dead of Winter. Like there's a whole bunch of like little things in that game. This one is just simply just a card-based system. As you just go to a quest, and all the cards can be used at that quest, unless if it's a special one like the Holy Grail type of deal. But all the other cards can be played on every other quest. So my cards aren't more valuable at this one location than this location. I can actually go anywhere and try to optimize what's in my hand at a particular location.
So I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyways for that singular listener out there. Is this something that's going to stay on your shelf?
Oh, absolutely. I went out of my way to try to find it, because this is not in print anymore. It's actually harder to find. There are still some game stores out there that have a few on their shelves. But one of the big things that I got mine through a BGG auction. And the big selling point was that this one actually came with the expansion. That is really hard to find. We didn't play with the expansion, which actually adds a couple really neat things. It's called Merlin's Company, and what it actually adds is there's a new deck of cards that are called travel cards. So every time you travel to a location, you have to draw a card and see what happens to you along your way.
Oh, an event deck.
So it's like, I'm going to go to the Holy Grail quest. I flip over this one, and there's that all of a sudden Morgan says, nope, you're going to go fight the Black Knight. And now I have no choice but to actually go to that other location other than the location that I was supposed to go to.
Oh, that's so cool.
All right. Or it could just be nothing happened.
So recommend?
Highly recommend to try it at least once, especially if you're a fan of like the Hidden Trader.
Sorry. Just to make note again, I
know Norm is a fan of the Hidden Trader because he pulled it off beautifully.
Oh, but you know what? I can't play that strategy with you guys because the gig is up, right? I mean, that was a one-off character that can't get reproduced because, I mean, I can't play that. I'm just learning the game, guys.
Definitely worth a try. The expansion is not a necessity to play this game, especially at like Amazon prices right now for this. The expansion alone is like $80-$90.
Yikes.
That's for the expansion, but you can still find copies of Shadows over Camelot for actually. I would highly recommend this one. It's going to stay on my shelf for a while.
I'm glad you have it too, because I had so much fun. And man, talk about a chunk of steak
and like now, like some people are like, well, we don't want to play Pandemic, and we've played Pandemic to death. And Pandemic at this time for us is almost a solved game. We kind of know the right combination of characters that'll optimally like give us the best chance of winning all the time. This one doesn't really have that because there's so much variability on the way there's so many moving parts to the evil. So yeah,
cool.
Shadows over Camelot.
Well, I had so much fun with that game. It'll be interesting to play.
I have yet to have a bad experience with that game yet.
Well, you know what?
I have not had a bad experience.
That's probably the greatest praise you can give it, because I mean,
and I haven't even been the trader yet.
All right, so you ready to hand over the reins?
Sure. Give me some Martin Wallace goodness.
Oh, here we go. So I'm gonna do London 2nd edition, which came out in 2017. As you said, the designers.
You're doing the Cult of the New.
Yeah, well, I mean, 2nd edition, right? But it's still kind of Cult of the New, so I get to tap dance in that gray area, which I'm really good at. The artists were Mike Atkinson, Natalia Boric, and Przemysław Sobiecki.
Well done.
Thank you very much. Published by Osprey Games. Let's get into that groove that we do and read that overview. So here we go. In London, you will take the role of prominent architects tasked with rebuilding the city after the Great Fire and guiding the development of the city up to the dawn of the 20th century. You must balance your vision, your finances, and the needs of the city's inhabitants if you are to be remembered as an icon of London. The game has 4 core elements: building, money, land, and poverty. It wouldn't be a Martin Wallace game without some poverty. Each of these elements influences the other, as well as affecting your prestige, which is known as victory points in this case. On your turn, you will develop the city for your future benefit, buy land, gather resources, or run your part of the city, taking advantage of the area you have developed. Money will affect your ability to do these things, but it is not the goal itself. Only the architect with the most prestige will be remembered in the end. So, how you play this game is the objective of the game is gain the most victory points, as in every
Mhm.
good Euro. But during the game in clockwise order, you're going to, on your turn, you're going to draw a card either from the top deck or from the tableau of discarded cards. And after that, the second part of your turn is you get to choose from four options. So you'll draw your card to start your turn. Then you can develop your city, which means that you start off with a hand of cards, and these cards are city cards, and they can be a multitude of things, from guilds, businesses, buildings that you're going to develop in the city. And the interesting thing that I liked about the developing the city part is you're in front of you, you have a blank tableau. So every card that you start, I kind of refer to it as a block or a neighborhood in your part of the city is a pile. So every pile that you start is a developed area. What's going to happen is that when you run your city, each area that you create is going to develop one poverty. And like I said, it's a Martin Wallace game, and loans and poverty are part, like digging yourself out of the hole is so Wallace-esque. So, but when you develop your city, you'll play, let's say I'm playing a blue card down. I have to pay for that with another blue card that I will put in the general area discard, which will have two rows. And I mean, we can get into explaining that mechanism. But yeah, to play a card, if I'm playing a brown development card, city card, I have to discard the same card. So it's
Mhm.
always this matching thing. So in your hand, you're trying to hand manage what's going on there. The next thing is you can buy land, and that I've never played the first edition. And the first edition, the boroughs used to be on a map. That's the big change from what I understand, is that the boroughs are now cards that you
Right.
can buy. And I'll get into the boroughs a little bit deeper later on. The next thing you can do after you do your initial draw your card is you can run your city. And that's the beauty of this
That's
game
that's that's the crux of the game.
is that you're these little micro engine buildings that you create. And it's not, you don't just play that long-term game and start to slowly build this engine and design this engine. This is one and done, and then we're moving on to the next engine, kind of recycling, building over top the areas that you've created on your tableau. um, so the running the city, you basically can run it in any order, because some cards might give you money that you need to trigger another card to buy you prestige points, and so on and so forth, or to remove poverty. There's so many dynamic actions that these cards do that it would take a long time to describe the whole picture. But yeah, running your city, that's, to me, that's um, the element of this game, is that engine building that I'll get to. And then the last one, I mean, like I said, if it's a hand management, you can just choose to draw three cards and get that hand back up. So
Yeah.
that's
Did,
basically
did,
the
did, did you
overview.
did you mention when you run your city, like it then it's like for some cards it's like done, like you have to flip them face down,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they no longer trigger for the rest of the
So
game. Now you got to build up your neighborhood again.
that's a perfect segue into the whole mechanisms part. Is it's engine building, it's card drafting, and it's tableau building. So what you were just saying about the tableau building is yes, there are certain cards, in fact, that are recurring. Like, I believe the having the electricity and the street lights running through the night that you have to pay for reduces poverty. And I like that thematic connection with some of the card actions. And then some of them, like you said, once you run it and it gives you 4 coins, you flip it over because that neighborhood has now been expended and can now be
Mm,
built upon. As I said, once you run your city, you run it in any order you want to efficiently generate the maximum resources you
right.
can. And
And as much as you want. You don't have to run
no,
every single card.
absolutely, you can wait off, because the Martin Wallace part comes in after you run your city. Is for each stack of cards that you have or each neighborhood that you create, you generate 1 poverty, and it starts to pile up. And I mean, there's been times where I've run my city engine and I've been behind not ahead as far as my resources go, or as far as my victory points go, or as far as my money goes. So there's
Yeah.
times where it's like, oh man, I just have to run this. I have to take the hit because I have to build this new engine now.
Right. I remember this when I was learning when I was learning it. You were like saying, like, don't like you gotta keep in mind that you're gonna get poverty for every pile of cards, every neighborhood that you have in your city. So you don't want to go. And then I just remember that very first time. And then you're like, I'm putting down 5 piles. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, because I had coached you, and start off with 3 piles,
Yeah, go
and
3 or 4. Go 3 or 4.
yeah, because this had been at the point probably my 6th or 7th time playing it, and I had played it safe like that, and I thought, what happens if I push on the gas pedal just a little bit more? And it's sort of like an experiment. And yeah,
Yeah, because in this
sometimes
game,
it goes up.
yeah, in this game, like, you can't get away from poverty. Poverty is
No,
going. You're going to accumulate it. So at times, you're just going to okay, screw it. I'm just going to accumulate. I just need money, and I don't care if I'm how much poverty I'm going to accumulate. I'm just going to get a buttload of money
yeah, and
for my turn.
the
Because the
so
poverty thing only comes into play at the very end, where you
that's the
compare.
that's the
You
unique
have
thing I want to
yeah,
talk about.
yeah. Okay, you go for it.
The Well, the engine building, brilliant. The tableau we just talked about, increasing, decreasing those. Well, you can't decrease the neighborhoods once you build them; they're there. The card drafting. When you discard, or when you have to pay for building your city, and you put a card in the discard rows, it's available to the next player to pinch. So there's
Mm.
times where I'm thinking I need to get this card out, and I have to pay with this card, but I want that card later on. So I really hope you don't see the value in this that I see, and
Or
that'll be there.
yeah, you're hoping that, oh, I really hope that Ryan's engine doesn't require this particular piece.
Well, and the timing too is, if I can see that you have to run your engine, then you might not, pick up the 3 cards. Or it's that whole delicate balance of, what are you doing where I can do something that isn't going to benefit you, and it's not going to, hinder my progress. So there was that whole Zen kind of balance that I was watching too going on. How do you score points? The I think it comes down to, how do you not get punched in the face with poverty? So you score points on the city cards when you run your city in certain cases,
Right,
and
right,
you score points on your borough cards when you
right.
purchase them in certain cases. Um, and it comes down to the end of the game, which I'll explain a bit, but then I'm going to explain it in greater detail on that unique mechanism later on. Sorry. So yeah, it's all about poverty, and at the end of the game, it comes down to who has the less poverty is going to be in a I would say a more beneficial or advantageous point scoring position. What do you think?
Right, right. Yeah, okay, yeah, yeah. I can see where you're going with that.
Because I mean, like you said, you're gonna have poverty. You can't. It's a resource. The poverty is a resource in this game, and it's a matter of managing and limiting this poverty as much as you can. But have seen games where like when I was playing with Jeff, he didn't care. He took on poverty, he took on loans, because he pushed his prestige so high up that at the end of the game, he was able to pay off those penalties and still, through the math, be at a pretty strong prestige
Yeah,
level.
advantage.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it comes down like a typical Euro. How do you win the game? Get the most victory points.
Mm-hmm.
So opinions, outside in, the box. It is
Elegant.
It's elegant, it's plain, it doesn't flash, and I'm thinking it's very British. It has prestige because it's a about an 8.5 by 11 kind of 2 inches deep box. It's dark green in color, which is kind of very vintagey color, and it's a very delicate kind of white line scrolling, framing out the box with a nice
Mm.
script London of that, the 1600s era kind of font that you would associate. So to me, it's this very less is more as far as the graphic arts go. And yeah, to me, it was very appealing.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
It,
And,
it,
and
it definitely doesn't stand out on a shelf, but no, it's got a lot. Yeah, like you got mentioned it right on the bat. If you pull this off the box, you are drawn by like, ooh, what is what is this? Because this looks like royalty almost. Like it's
yeah, yeah. Like from a graphic arts perspective, the only clues that they had to let you know what was inside the box was the font and the scrolling and the color.
right,
And
because even the back of the box doesn't even have a picture of the gameplay, does
I
it?
no, I don't believe
No.
so.
And I think it's just a small description of like what the game is, but it doesn't actually have a picture of like any of the cards or anything like that. So it's just a little box of mystery.
So yeah, I mean, the that was uh, I'm stuttering right now. That was the most impressive thing to me was that it drew me in immediately.
Mhm.
As far as the components go, it's a box full of cards,
Right?
pretty much. I mean, it's got your chits and stuff like that, and your poverty cubes, but it's predominantly a box of cards. And the we're talking components. The card quality, awesome.
Hmm.
Nice, good, rigid cards. I believe it's that woven paper,
Yeah, that
or
kind of that linen finish.
yeah, yeah. So I immediately sleeved those because I thought there's nothing else to this game but cards. So it's going to require some protection. Um, there's a little player board for the discards, and it's so simple. It's basically
Hmm.
tableau and cards.
Yeah, it's just got where you discard your cards, and yeah, I think it even has your victor point track on there too. And
Yeah, and the poverty penalty scale that I'll get into when I talk about the unique mechanism. The rule book, readability, layout, learning curve, reference. Um, I, I mean, I have a few Osprey games, and they so far are really good with clear, precise, uncluttered information, and they get to the point. Um, Not too much flavor text, not too much narrative. It's just it's very linear, very straightforward, and the formatting. I'm able to flip through the book and find exactly what I need to find by the nice big bold topic headings. Um, I don't know if you had to flip through the book at all, but
I never saw the rule book at all.
yeah, and it was like a good restaurant's menu. That not that many pages. It was nice and clean and straightforward. Game system, game style. Well, we talked a lot about it. It's an engine builder, over and over and over, to the point where you're probably going to bring the counter to this. But for me, I loved it because it was here's a formula, run it, successful. Yes, try another formula, build another engine, run it, successful. The cards, those burrow cards, I saw those as because I keep talking about this engine build and repeat and build a new engine and build a new engine. These burrow cards to me are like a transmission for the new
Hmm.
engine because you drop this new burrow card in. Most of the time, it's refreshing your hand limit, it's removing poverty, it's giving you money, or giving you victory points or prestige points. So it's like drop a new transmission in, get me all stocked up, and let me look at what engine this new transmission is providing me. What do you
Yeah,
think about that
yeah,
analysis?
no, they were really good. I think you banged on because you're gonna pick one up really quite early in the game, and yeah, it's gonna work for you for a little while, but eventually you're gonna be like, oh man, I can't sustain what I'm doing anymore. I need a new burrow. I need something else that kind of gives me another little jump start.
Yeah. And there's a cool synergistic connection between the burrows and the cards as well, because there's some cards where you can play that penalize the other person for having I think it's the fire department card where
Oh, the
you
the
can,
kind of like the riverfront
yeah,
properties.
the riverfront property stuff. So there's positive and negative cards in that deck that affect if you have a lot of riverfront properties on the north and south of the Thames. So or Thames. Um, uh,
Atoms.
yeah, I think synergistically, all those cards work very well together. The card titles and the card images and the card, what they meant, if they're a statue or if they were, a economics card, it made thematic sense of what was on the card for what the card was doing. I understood it, and I mean, sometimes with the European games, the suspension of disbelief has to be pretty deep for you to go, oh, these cubes I'm pushing are actually bananas, or you know. So I thought that the cards did a good job on having that theme, that being architects theme connected. The unique mechanism. Um, the unique mechanism to me is the way poverty is used in this game. I don't know if that's a mechanism, but I think
A
Martin
cool, a cool, a
Wallace.
cool element that this
Yeah,
game brought.
I've yet to see with other designers um, being connected to, like Martin Lawrence. Martin Lawrence. Martin Wallace is so connected to loans and digging yourself up out of debt that this is his groove. And the way he uses the poverty cubes when you run your city, and the way he uses the poverty cubes at the end of the game. And this is where I'm going to connect that whole how do you win. At the end of the game, you basically go through this, as typical, this menu of, you do this, you do this, you do this. What I what I as I was reading it and kind of coming up with some notes for this, the end of the game happens when, at the end of your turn, the city card pile runs out. When that happens, everybody else still gets a turn. And right away I thought, well, how darn polite of those Brits to allow the game. We could see the deck running down, like we can visually see the timer. So is no surprise that the end of the game's coming. And even then, you say, oh, I'm done my turn and there's no cards left. So why don't you guys have one more turn? And I mean, I understand that too, because you've been working on this quick engine and you want to just get one last, even if it's a half run, you want to be able
Mm-hmm.
to have one last, swing at the pinata. I don't know. I started that metaphor and it just kind of went off. But yeah, you just want one last ditch effort to try and salvage something, because at the end of the game, every card in your hand is one poverty cube.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're holding if you're not putting cards down and if you're not building your city and you don't see that deck coming down, then shame on you, because unless this is your first play. But yeah, having cards in your hand, poverty cubes. You pay back loans. If you take a $10 loan, $5. So you're paying. You should pay back your loans, because the next one is, for every unpaid loan, you lose 7 prestige points.
Mm-hmm.
There's that Wallace thing again.
Yeah,
Um,
gotta punish you for not paying back your loans.
this is the one part, that uniqueness that I want to point out, as far as how he uses poverty for scoring. When you get to this point, the player with the fewest poverty cubes, let's say you and I are playing, or you and I and Jeff are playing, and I have the fewest poverty cubes. I have 7. I put those into the box. Boom. Okay. You guys now take off 7. Jeff takes off 7. Then you go to the scale and you see the remaining poverty cubes I have. I'm penalized how many victory points or prestige points. To
Right.
me, that tells me that the poverty isn't just a penalty or a slap on the hand. It's a negative resource in the game. It's good, like you said, it's happening whether you like it or not.
It's gonna happen. And then how much poverty am I accumulating in regards to other players? Because if we're all pretty tight, I have no problem taking poverty
Yeah.
and accumulating it. Because like I said, if we were all just like within just like five of one another and everything, it's not that's not super detrimental
No.
on that scale. But it does accumulate more and more and more. The more the bigger the gap is.
It just gets worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
Does this all connect? I think so, because I mean, it's an engine building game. The cards work synergistically with the burrow cards. The theme, your architects trying to rebuild London after the fire. I mean, I buy it, right? I mean, and that ties into my conclusion. The game's main point is, from a theme perspective, your architects rebuilding London after the Great Fire. And that's what you're all doing at the table. You're just trying to build these neighborhoods, run these neighborhoods, rebuild them again, run these neighborhoods. And it comes down to who can run the most efficient and effective engine. And I'm still trying to figure that one out. Are there better engine builders? I mean, it's like apples and oranges. I had said that
Yeah.
certain engine builders that I played,
Wow.
you're planning the long game.
Yeah, I would interject here. If you like engine builders, you'll like this game. You just may not like it in the way you want it, because for me, I like engine builders, but I like my engine building up over time, and I don't want it to fall apart in the middle. Which in this game, I set up an engine. I'm like, oh, this thing is really awesome. This is going to be run really cool. I run my city, and all of a sudden, all my cards are face down. Now I have nothing again. I was like, what? What's
Yeah,
going on here? I mean, I don't get to run it like over and over again. And you're like,
yeah. When
no.
you first learned that, and I told you, no, you're gonna end up running about 10 engines, and then you kind of thought, I don't know
Oh,
if I like this.
well, that, but after you think about it, and we played it quite a few times, that one particular week,
Yeah,
and I started to appreciate it. I was like, oh, okay, I do this. Okay, I run it. It's done. But at least I've got cards in my hand that I know what I'm going to do for my next engine. And I'm already starting to plan like 2 or 3 engines,
yeah,
like in advance. And I'm not going to run all of my city. I'm going to leave pieces in it because I've got these cool cards that are going to combo with cards that I've already got laid down. And yeah, it's really cool. If you do like that kind of aspect of like, hey, I'm going to build up something so that I'm going to run it and I'm going to get a big reward, you get to do that because you get to do it, like you said, about like 8 to 10 times in a game.
if you're a player that likes to pull levers and push buttons, regardless of the outcome, you're gonna love this game.
Oh, no, absolutely. Just the sheer amount of decision points for such an elegant and simple card game. The decision points are like through the roof. Like there's times I'm sitting there and I'm like, I don't want to discard any of these cards.
Oh, I know.
I want to play them all, but I can't.
Yeah. The in our conclusion notes, there's one area that's like use a quote, and the best quote that I could come up with this is, "Why just build one engine when you can build many?"
Oh, that's the key too. And,
Yeah.
and and how wide does your engine go? Do you only go
Well,
4 Do you only go 4 blocks, or do you go 6?
that's the next thing. I'm like, what's the limit? Like, how can you go 10 neighborhoods, like 10 piles? Is that crazy, or is that going to break the engine? To me, I just want to play this again and like pull the lever, push the button, and see if I can break the engine.
Yeah,
I want to blow it up.
and I think that it all goes by with whoever you're playing with. Like if you're a person playing conservatively and not running very many neighborhoods, you're you're not going to want to go much more than they are, because you're going to accumulate a much higher poverty than they will be.
And I haven't even started considering the in-game strategy playing against someone who's playing a different strategy. Do you try to mimic? Do you try to do the parallels, or do you just be so asymmetrical that
Well, I don't think
that
any of the games we played, I don't think either of us did the same thing
oh
twice in
yeah.
in a whole week.
So for me, bottom line, If you like engine building, you need to either try this game, and if you try this, your brain's gonna go ooh, scratching the itch, and you'll walk out with the game. I mean, I guarantee it. Um,
Isn't that what
Price
happened
point
with
wise, it
you?
was totally reasonable. Sorry, what was that?
Isn't that what happened to you? You played the game and you're like, yoink, off the shelf.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think I did my research and then I saw a couple run throughs and and looked at that and went, yup, yup, that's exactly what I need. The whole repeat, run, repeat, run, repeat. I mean, blow up the engine. Who cares? You're going to build another one really quick and you can recover from that blown transmission. So, yes, try the game. The consequence might be that you have to buy it, and that's not a bad consequence to have.
Or somebody in the group has to buy it.
Yeah, or somebody in the group has to have. So, Ryan, in closing, what do you have to say about either of those games?
Both are shelf staples, I think, for both of us. I know London is most likely going to remain on your shelf for quite a while. Shadows over Camelot's going to stay on my shelf for quite a while because they kind of fill those little niches in our gaming groups, in our gaming lifestyle. So yeah, I think we picked a couple good ones this time around.
Yeah, I quite agree with that. Well, on that note, I think we should wrap things up because we want to keep things nice and short and sweet.
Nice
And I
and
think
toit.
nice and toit,
Nice
toit
and
like a
toit.
toiga. Oh, and being Canadian, I'll just say sorry. Well, yeah, that being said, thank you for listening to us. This is Cardboard Conjecture. I'm your host, Norm,
And I'm Ryan.
and we'll catch you later.